Hey, it's the product experience, and I'm Randy Silver. You know that there's always the question about whether product managers should be able to code. But what does that even mean in the age of vibe coding? I talked about that and much more with the authors of Building Rocketships, a blueprint for fast-growing companies in the age of AI. Ezinne Udezue has been the CPO at WP Engine and held leadership roles at Time, Bizarre Voice, and Discovery. Oji Udezue was the CPO at Calendly and Typeform, and was also at Twitter, Atlassian, and Microsoft. And yes, they are married, but that's the least interesting thing about this episode.
You can build an Empire State Building that's absolutely shitty for the people who walk into it.
Should PMs code? Should PMs be able to design?
The last thing I wrote with a developer was code.
When the design and developer have been, liberated with AI, right? Now everybody is a product person.
What is the job of a product team in the future?
The job isn't just to tip things, it is to lead teams.
Clarity, clear ambition, clear focus can do wonders.
If you think that product is making the thing, then I think it's wrong, obviously.
Ezinne, Oji, how are you doing? Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having us, Randy.
It's a pleasure to be here, Randy.
Fantastic. So,
Again.
so Oji, I had the pleasure of running into you last year in Raleigh at Pandemonium and got a chance to see you talk, and so, as did a whole bunch of other people. But you guys have a new book out. You've got lots of stuff to talk about. I'm just curious, before we jump into all of that, can you do a quick introduction first? Just tell us, what are you doing these days, and what was your first product role?
Oh, wow.
Okay, so I am still a product manager. I'm a builder. I love building products. And what I'm doing these days is actually building a few things. First of all, I'm building an adventure studio. I found that I'm building 2 AI companies. And with Ezinne and Ted, we are also spending time advising and consulting with a lot of tech companies that want to have a roadmap to this new AI super cycle, and they want a roadmap to building a great product operating system so they don't become one-hit wonders, and they build things that are important every single time. And they also want to tweak their teams and make them innovation factories. And so that's where I'm spending most of my time when I am not talking to the excellent Randy on podcast.
Yeah. So I guess Oji already kind of shared what it is I'm doing. I'm really focused on ProductMind right now. I took some time off the typical chief product officer roles. I've usually done lots of transformation, working with enterprise scale companies on product, but I'm slowing down and finished writing the book, touring the book, quote unquote, but also mostly just advising people and advising companies, and really trying to roll up my sleeves and help them be excellent in this new AI age.
And Ezinne, what was your first product job?
Oh, yes. I'm very proud of this one because it was one of my first times pushing for negotiation. My first product job with a product title was at T-Mobile USA. It's a long, long time ago. And the reason it's important is because I actually, they used to call everybody product analyst, product whatever. I wanted to be a product manager. And it was part of my negotiation. So I was actually the first product manager at T-Mobile USA.
I remember this story. Yeah. And you cut me out of it because I was an advocate for that. I'm joking. But I don't think I answered the question. My first work role was at Microsoft. I became a PM on the Windows team. Windows, the thing you know and love.
Which version of Windows do you want to admit?
I cannot. I can't. I have to deny. I can't say. I cannot confirm or deny. No, it was actually something that came before Vista, basically, and then for many years I was still contributing to the Windows project.
Fantastic. Okay, and so you've both mentioned the book and the fact that you're touring it at the moment and doing everything with it. I was really interested in seeing that there's a book and a pro edition of the book. So can you give us a tiny bit of background on this? What is the book? What's it about? And what is the difference? What is the pro edition?
Audrey, why don't you tell the story of the book and then I'll talk about the pro
Yeah,
edition.
yeah, because that's actually perfect. So the book came out of over the last 5 to 7 years. People hit me and Ezinne up because of our experience, but also just because of maybe how we talk about what we've learned and the secrets we've learned about building tech companies. And they come to us to ask for help, for consulting, and so on and so forth. And it ranges. Sometimes they're bigger companies who have a market where they're trying to gain more market share. And sometimes they're startups. And so we started to devote more time to figuring out how to help and scale what we knew. And the other thing about us is that we're international. And, we would travel around the world and see the disparity between product knowledge from Seattle, from the Bay Area, to product knowledge in Lagos, in Sydney, in Mumbai. And this disparity, which lasted a lot longer than we thought, that we just thought that information was spread around the world and the secrets of product will be everywhere. But instead, we saw still like balkanization, places where there were concentrations. And so we wrote a book that would help builders anywhere in the world. And we don't not like the Bay Area. We love the Bay Area, but we wanted to help anyone in the world have the things they needed to build important companies, to build things that people loved and that make them and their shareholders money. And so that's where the book was born. We wanted to give back. And the book is actually structured in two really important distinctions. Well, first of all, it's a T-shaped book. Like if you are a senior product manager up to CPO, you would love this book because it shows you how to think, frameworks to use, but also how to be a leader. But it's also a book for the partners of product leaders. So if you're a CEO or CTO, CFO, or COO, you really want to read this book because it helps you partner with a CPO, the product organization very well. Even teaches you how to even hire a CPO. What are they for? What are you looking for in order to help them? Spoiler is to build a product operating system. And so the first part is how to build a great product. We talk about simplicity, we talk about pricing, we talk about virality, network effects. We talk about very important things about how to build a product, how to really learn from your customer, how to listen to them. And in the second part of the book, we talk about how to lead the shipyard, how to lead a collection of people, 200, 500, 1,000 who are building the product of the tech company, how their rituals, their artifacts they need to use, the mindsets they need to embody, the culture they need to have. We talk a little about all that stuff, talk about strategy, direction. So that's the book. Honestly, it's a really easy, I think, interesting and important read. But beyond that, we decided to make it actionable. And that's where Ezinne will talk about the prohibition.
Yeah, so as Oji said, it's a good, I call it a really good fundamentals book, just understanding the why behind product management. A lot of people use the word product manager, and I don't think sometimes people understand what they're being asked to do. And the book covers a lot of that. But we also, with the Pro Edition, which we've built on Coda, it's an online version where you actually get templates, articles, things that offer more expansive information for pricing. We actually will show you, for example, in the chapter where we're doing pricing, we do a pricing case study. We show you how to actually do weighted measures. And then if it's for virality, we actually show you how to calculate virality, or we'll give examples from Oji's time at Calendly or Typeform. In my case, for customer listening, I literally go into some of the step-by-step of how we did customer listening, or if we're doing design and simplicity, I show you a literal step-by-step that we use at WP Engine for evaluating our user experience. So you get these step-by-step and examples or templates. So it's not just words on a page. You can actually begin to see how we apply that in our career or through the lens of experts that we've brought in, our friends that have shared their own assets with us.
And we've been terrible at the promo side of this because between both of you and my introduction, none of us have actually said that the name of the book is Building Rocketships.
Yeah, it's building. Bring it forward. I don't think they can see it. Building Rocketships.
Can people see this?
Yeah.
Building Rocketships.
Product management for high growth companies.
So I'm
Yeah.
curious. So in the age of AI, and we will definitely talk about AI, but one of the things that I'm really curious about is you've worked at a lot of different companies, and most of your experience, well, most of all of our experience, because we've been around for more than 2 minutes, is pre AI being magic pixie dust that you sprinkle on everything. And you were talking about how you've traveled all around the world working with product management teams all over the place. And I'm curious, most of my career has been over here in the UK and Europe. And I see a difference sometimes between the Silicon Valley style of product management and many other areas, many other places. A lot of the places I've worked and people I work with, they're good companies. They've been around for a long time and they want to get better. But there's a different attitude between them and the ones who say, we want to be the best at all costs. And I'm curious about what's the difference that you've seen when you're working with teams? What's there, not just Silicon Valley versus the rest of the world, but world-class companies versus other companies? What does it take?
Wow, big question. Randy leading off with the humdinger. So Isa and I think we talked about this. We talk about this a little bit, and I think there are several features of trying to be world class. By the way, let's just define what world class is. World class is being in the top 90th percentile, right, of the highest 10 percentile of companies in your space, doing similar things and so on and so forth, so that you can out execute more than 90% of your thing. Let's just say that's a loose definition. And I think that a lot of this is connected to social psychology at company scale. And I think the first thing is just having the ambition to be really good, right? You want to be one of the best, right? And I think it starts there. A lot of social psychology tells us that attainment is about being able to see it and set a goal, right? And so I think it just starts there. Now that goal could be a day away, it could be a month away, it could be a year away, it could be 5 years away. Like it's remarkable within all these organizations, even the storied ones, just people. So I remember Gates setting goals. I remember Baumer setting goals. I remember my department head setting goals. And it all comes from some human saying, you know what, this is now our goal. This is what we'll try to be. And I think it's very critical.
I think it goes, I agree with you in every way. I think it's the same way as there are people who are just confident and are visionary and just want to go for it, okay? And they believe they can go for it. So I think first, to Oji's point, it's that strong ambition, wanting to be the best. So if you're going to create an internet company or a browser, you're going to do it for the world. You're not thinking about it as a hobby, a small business. We're just going to solve this problem for this part of the world. You're really thinking about it for the entire world. And then beyond just doing that is saying that going to how fundamental the problem is, right? Wanting it, but then looking for a problem that is big, that is really big, and that is applicable across so many dimensions that will allow for you to be financially successful, to support the ambition. So those are some things that I notice about the difference between when we advise founders who are in America, who are from the Bay Area, there's a difference. There really is. You can see it in their eyes because they want to take over the world. And sometimes you see it in other founders, but sometimes I feel they are not, they're maybe waiting for permission to imagine that big, right? To think. And it only takes a bit of coaching and some direction setting, and all of a sudden that hunger comes out. And I'm seeing a shift. So at least we're seeing a shift. It's not just American Silicon Valley companies that have that hunger and realize that they can affect the world wherever they are. We're seeing it in folks that we know that are working in Canada, starting their companies, even in Africa, Nigeria, Ghana, Mumbai. So I think it's spreading out more, but that idea of changing the world through tech and owning it and being able to solve a problem that the entire world should pay attention to, that's usually where it starts from. Oh yeah, did I go off the...
No, I don't think you did. So say whatever you want about tech pros and how annoying they are and how obnoxious they are. they don't lack confidence, right? Even when they're working on a problem that you're like, what the hell? They they're like, oh, this is gonna be the thing that's important to the world. But before I go off on something else I think is critical to being world class, I will say that right now I'm advising a company. It's an African company that has really revolutionary technology, but not just technology, because technology is nothing, right? They have customers, they have millions of dollars worth of revenue on tap. They've built basically a large language media model for weather that they've been able to do for very cheap, right? This is huge. This is worth billions of dollars. One of the things that I coach them about is just like ambition. You are bigger and more, like you have more code that's deployed for your customers than a lot of IP companies in Silicon Valley. You should have more swagger. You should walk around like, you should have cojones, basically. Like you should be walking around like you're the master of the universe. And, it's really interesting how sometimes people don't need the permission that Ezinne is talking about. Now, beyond ambition, I think is also just like the next step is just the desire to get better. And this is along a lot of dimensions. One is you have to, take all the systems in your company in hand, right? And say, okay, the product system needs to change. How can it be one of the best in the world? You just literally have to ask that question. How does my marketing emulate the best? How does my product innovation emulate the best? How do we even have company meetings? Is it the best? Our HR system, what are the best people doing? Because some of these things is just, how do I put it? It's just the desire to get it. Some of them are expensive. You just need to know what it is to do, even to start. And these people try to do this daily, weekly, and that's where it starts from. And I think the last thing maybe Ezinne is the best way to talk about culture. Like what is the culture piece of world-class companies?
So, Randy, you asked, like, what does it take? So I think if we're going to sum it up, it comes down to clarity in the following: the ambition, right? The problem worth solving for people, like who you're going to solve it, and is this a problem worth solving? Then focusing and aligning your people and your systems towards those things. And the last is creating a place wherein everybody within the organization knows what that ambition is, knows who you're serving, knows what the problem is you're solving, and knows that making our people and systems better towards that goal is it. And you see, when companies have that clarity and ambition, clarity and purpose and problem, clarity and, hey, our systems, our goals, our OKRs, our tickets are towards this, you begin to see something magical.
And then everybody pulls forward for that.
Yes.
And everybody sort of like strains for that thing. Yeah. And it becomes magical.
I love that answer. I love talking about how the culture, and this is not just something that happens. It's not just a product manager and a dev team that creates a world-class thing. It's about the entire organization working together. Is this something you've talked about, the fact that you've worked with transformations, Ezinne? Is this something that you've seen happen that's, really doable in legacy companies and companies that have been around, more established, that have been around for a while? Or is there just too much gravity in these places? What does it take to go from having scale that came from the past to, supercharging again and getting out of a decline?
I mean, I've seen it happen. Fortunately, unfortunately, I've worked with companies that are, acquired by private equity firms. And if there's anything private equity firms have, it's clarity and purpose, right? And really getting everybody on the same page, getting rid of the waste, quote unquote. So I've been lucky enough to be at private equity firms and see the company realize, I come in with a private equity firm and see the company realize that there's been waste, that we can do more with less, and really get crisp on who we want to become in the next 6, 12, 18 months. And then all of a sudden, we pick a problem that we think will get us or buy us the opportunity to be as big as we want. And all of a sudden, everybody's aligned, like trying to drive towards that. I also feel I've been really blessed in that the private equity firms that I worked with aren't the ones who come in with their own mission. They usually they've empowered myself or my teams to do what we need to do, but they've offered that, hey, we have X number of months. We need this done. How will we do it? And that clarity, that focus, that very clear ambition often gets everybody aligned towards the right thing. I also worked at Procore. Procore wasn't owned by private equity, it's venture backed. It had been around for 10 years by the time I got there. And Tui, the CEO, wanted us to change. We were going to go public. And it was really important that we were very crisp about who we were and who we were then and how we were going to come to market. And I saw the company change. I really did. We knew we wanted to be the #1 construction platform in the world. We knew we wanted to serve 3 very specific customers types, the owner, the general contractor, and the specialty contractors. I could repeat to you everything about who we wanted to become. And all of a sudden, the company, with that clarity, was able to focus every decision we made around that mission. We also knew we wanted to go public. So again, it allowed every single person to focus. And I saw us do tremendous work in 18 months. The company changed fully. I was lucky. I ran data and AI and platform. We didn't have a data team when I showed up. Within 18 months, I had acquired 3 companies, 1 data company, 2 AI companies. And all of a sudden we were going public with a construction intelligence platform. And it was robust because that was something we wanted to do. So clarity, clear ambition, clear focus can do wonders once you have a team that's willing to drive it within.
Even for a company that's been around for a while.
Exactly.
So it's very much a leadership driven thing, or at least leadership enabled in these cases, isn't it?
No, I think that's correct. One of the things that people make a mistake of is a lot of these kinds of like high impact transformations or changes. You have to have leadership bought in. Like it's not popular. There's some PMs out there who's like, I'm ambitious. I'm going to just do it by dint of, like a lot of hard work. But actually, the thing that you should do in that situation, if you don't have all the power, you're not in the C-suite, and that is not radiating from the bottom, is one of 2 things. One is that you have to influence someone up there, right? I remember when I was at Microsoft and I was really frustrated about losing to Google. I had to convince my VP to do something about it, to work on a project I thought was going to make a difference. And that was the only way we could catch up, I thought at the time. I don't think I was fully right. I was only partially. And so I don't think we were as effective as we wanted. But I had to do an influence game. I couldn't build my way out of it. And so that's important. And the second thing is, sometimes if you're in a place that's not changing, has no ambition to change, and that's what you want, you have to leave and go find the place that's willing to sort of support your ambitions. And that's also perfectly fine.
Okay, we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about the subtitle in your book as well, about doing this all in the age of AI and how it's changed things. So I know you've talked about this recently, but it's the conversation that everyone seems to be having these days. So vibe coding, is this really going to change everything? Is this, we've always had the question of, should PMs code? Should PMs be able to design? Should they be able to do everything? Can they just do away with everyone else and vibe code their way out of problems now? And yeah, I'm teasing, but still.
No, the answer is no.
The answer to which question? He asked many questions. So the answer to which one?
No, the answer to, can you do away with PMs and I think developers have been trying to do away with PMs for 40 years, right? And I think that, no, I'm serious. Like, we had this thing at Microsoft, because we have many organizations, and we'd say, oh, this is a dev-driven organization, meaning that they hate PMs. And we'd say this is a PM-friendly organization, meaning they actually collaborate with PMs and enjoy how PMs help them. And, so we've always had this, I don't want to call it a conflict. Actually, I've always worked with engineers who are very supportive, but it feels like that. And the thing is, in the current tech regimen or interregnum, whatever you want to call it, people specialize. Developers want to build software and they want to build innovative things, whether it's algorithms and stuff. They are the gods of constructing digital fortresses, digital edifices, if that makes sense. Product managers, we want to point them in the right direction of customers. We want to make sure that it's not a scalar quantity. You can build an Empire State Building that's absolutely shitty for the people who walk into it, with 3-foot square rooms and 2-foot low ceilings, and it doesn't matter. You did it, but what does it matter to anybody, right? And what we do as product managers is balance customer delight and the strategy so that we can actually make money, so we can get to keep doing this amazing thing for customers. And designers are sort of our closest partners. They help make sure that the experience itself, right? So product isn't this big, but within that is experience. And we want to make sure designers help us do that. And it's not with interaction design and so on. And the thing is, those 3 roles, and I don't mean people, those 3 jobs are always being done, right? They can be done well or they can be done badly, if that makes sense. And it's not about the title of the person. It's that someone is always doing those things that are very integral to building this digital gold that we are in the business of building. And that doesn't change just because you can vibe code. Actually, isn't that if you look into our Substack, we've been talking about ambition. We want to think about writing the next Agile manifesto for the AI age, basically, our ProductMind. And what's going to change is what's already happening inside ProductMind, where instead of writing a specification in a document for developers, the last thing I wrote with a developer was code. My spec was a prototype. It was actual working software. I'm like, here is the spec. But it won't work for customers because it is me writing it, even though it looks like it works on an emulator on a desktop. But this is how it should look like. Here are the APIs it should have. And then the developer now takes that and makes it customer ready, because now I don't have to spend 2 weeks in meetings telling them and showing them what we're trying to do. So now a spec is code versus a document. But that's progress. That's progress. And a designer can do this too.
When I first started out, I was trying to communicate with designers by giving them my crappy Photoshop thing. And they would take it and they would just make a prettier version of that crap. Until I learned to make it intentionally bad, because I was trying to communicate to them in a visual language, and say, this is what's important on the page. This is kind of what I'm thinking. I know this is terrible, but it's better than just a bunch of words. And now you don't feel beholden to it. And now you'll put your own self in it and make it good. It kind of sounds we're doing the same thing with code. Make a crappy prototype that communicates to everyone else exactly what it is that it's supposed to do, how it's supposed to work, how it's supposed to feel, but not getting it right necessarily, not making it production ready.
We're not trying to make it production ready. And actually, this is the dance. Let me just abstract it. Isn't it always tells me not to be too professorial? But here's the thing. If you think about what a product team does, especially the core, the EPD, and the product marketer and the data, whatever, the thing we spend most of our time doing is idea communication. We are trying to get we listen to customers, we try to distill the problems, then we converge on a solution. And part of all those meetings is conveying that to each other so that we're all on the same page so we can all do our jobs. And the fact is, it's a very lossy process today. In meetings, you're reviewing a document, you're writing a design document. All these things take time. What AI will let us do in that build phase is to shorten it, is to collapse it, right? If we can very quickly, instead of doing documents and Figmas, create something more alive, right? Not the thing that we want to get to customers, but the thing that allows us to collaborate on ideas faster, more fluidly across the functions, then we're going to be faster, period. And we're going to get there better. And I think that's what AI and vibe coding will help us do if we use it in a disciplined way. The wrong way to think about it is, okay, as a PM, going to code the thing that we ship to customers. It doesn't have security, it doesn't have scalability, it doesn't have, all the privacy restrictions, blah, 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 which take forever. And then we're kind of stuck.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that I love the fact that you said in a disciplined way. I think you ended it with like, hey, this is what it is, because the reality is that I know that we are not all disciplined and we're going to see many things happen. That's just the reality. I think what AI vibe coding allows, and I'm going to say it this way, for product teams that are excellent, good product teams, you're going to collaborate, but no longer are you collaborating in the PRD and making sure that the developer sees it and the designer sees it. You're going to be collaborating in code. That is the work surface for getting work done. So you're going to be using code to prototype and iterate and gain clarity. Is this what you meant? Is this what you mean? Is this a type of UI? So you're actually doing it in code. I think that's what it enables for very disciplined teams, and that's great. There will be some PMs who will think that they can actually write production-ready code and take it out there, and that's going to happen. There'll be failures. There'll be software challenges. There are going to be security risks vulnerabilities. It's going to go up. Let's just say that. The third is that remember all those people within the organization that think they know better than you about who a customer or what a customer wants? That is going to
do
multiply.
exactly the same thing.
Your CEO now, who has an idea, is going to create a prototype. And the CRO is going to do that. And that VP of sales is going to do that. So again, you can't control everybody. The question is, how do you then leverage that and allow that to inform what it is that your roadmap should have and how it should evolve, et cetera, et cetera. That is the new world we're in with vibe coding. That is just a fact.
I love that. So the question really is not what's the product team going to do, because everyone's going to be doing some of this. The question is, what is the job of a product team in the future? For the longest time in most of the organizations I've worked with, there's the business and the product side, and one throws something over the wall at the other. And that's what I've been fighting against my whole career, to create that collaboration. But it sounds like that collaboration is at the very heart of it now. So
yes,
what is the job? What does good look like for a team?
So it's even worse. So I think I felt really good because I used to say, if we can bring the entire organization, so we're no longer business and product, the product is the business is a product. But the thing is, then the product manager had control of the resources, the developer and the designer. They got to say what the designer did. But now when the designer and developer have been liberated with AI, right? Now everybody is a product person. So to your point, what is it that we're doing? What is a product manager? A product manager is an advocate for the customer, right? And figuring out what is the most profitable problem to solve in a way that a customer will love it. You are truly a tastemaker. You are a student of the customer's problem. So it's not being driven just by what the customer says, but you are spending time within the organization, again, orchestrating all that activity, ensuring there is not too much waste, and that all that activity can be fruitful to the customer and to the business. Obviously, I've never said those words together before. You just asked and I made it up. But ultimately, it's trying, we've always talked about, product is the CEO, or are they the conductor? We've looked for all these analogies. But the reality is there will be so much noise within bigger organizations where everybody now has design and development resourcing. So it comes down to, which problem do we want to solve? How do we want to solve it? And what is the most optimal way to do it? And how do you leverage everybody who is dying to do this and ensure that, again, where there's clarity of ambition, clarity of a problem worth solving, you bring all of that together in a way that is profitable for the organization, not too noisy for your customer, because there's going to be noise. And I think that's somewhere in the definition of what product people will be doing.
Can I sort of reiterate one thing she said? I think encapsulates it. It is the product manager's job is the person who helps the organization build the right thing, right? I think that's it. Everything else, I remember, look, coding is only like a fifth of what it takes to get return on capital in tech companies, right? Coding is like somewhere in the middle, right? It's like customer discovery and listening, solutioning, coding, iteration, release, customer
marketing.
impedance. That is the entire process. It's this big. And vibe coding here is right here. And so if you think that product is making the thing, then I think it's wrong, obviously. Building the right thing that customers love is the essence of what it means to be a product manager.
Yeah, I love what you're both saying about this. We always talk about how the product manager is at the center of that Venn diagram, but the reality is design and sales and marketing and all the other business people think they're at the center too. So it's always been a bit crowded and confusing there. And this goes back to all the templates and stuff you talked about in the pro edition of your book. So tying it all together nicely. But I'm curious, given all this, for too many years, we've kind of shrunk down product management to be a set of frameworks and techniques and about managing backlogs and managing roadmaps. And that's about it. And the reality is it's thinking about the entire system and how everything works together and playing the influence game and doing a lot of other things. So given that we're in some ways freed now with this technology and the fact that democratizing the access to these resources, what's the skill set that you would ask people to concentrate on to really develop? What's the thing that every product person should really be doubling down on getting better at to survive, thrive, and really take over and be successful in the next generation?
And without sounding trite, AI is critical. But you started off talking about the book. We actually opened the Pro Edition with really trying to clarify what is product management so that people stop getting confused about this idea that AI is taking our jobs, et cetera, et cetera. And we say, and also there was this concept of, hey, product managers do everything. And in our experience, obviously it's evolving. It is a craft, and the craft is both art and science, and things change. Our experience is, we talked about it briefly. It is seeing a problem, discovering it, and solutioning for it, like really solutioning for a problem. That is the first piece. And you write PRDs and all the things around that, okay? And that's where a lot of people think product management, the job of product management is. The second part is really working within your organization to get that product out to the market so that it is well received. You're working with marketers and sales teams, etc. And that is the job of product management still, because if customers aren't using the product, they're not adopting it, or they're not being successful with the product, guess who everybody comes to? The product manager still. So you have a responsibility. It just depends what organization you work in, because if you're in a startup, you're definitely doing this. But if you're in an enterprise and you have your little carved piece, you may not be doing much of this. Then the third part is the reimagining, the evolution and the revolution and innovation of your product. And we call that opportunity spotting. So when you step back and think about this, you are solutioning for today's problem and solving and building a product with your EPD, your engineering, product, and design team, and the extended EPD team. You're working with sales, customer success to help the customers find success now that you've built that product. And the third is you're looking at the landscape, the industry, figuring out what it is that should come next. You're looking around the corner on your customer's behalf. Those are the three core things that the best product managers do. Given that understanding, how then can you imagine what LLMs, AI is doing to solutioning? That's what you as a product person should do. How then can you imagine what is changing about customer success and your product making it to the market? Number one, it's going to be very noisy. There are going to be lots of niches. Everybody's going to build an agent. So what does that mean for you as a product person? If you remember that second pillar of your job and think about what AI is, how AI is disrupting it, how industries are changing. And then the third piece is innovation, opportunity spotting. What changes for your industry now that AI exists? So instead of thinking, oh my God, AI, what do we do? If you could remember your three core jobs and then apply and think through, okay, what does it mean now that we have generative AI LLMs in the idea to the process of building and solutioning? What does it mean when your product gets to the market and customers finding success? What does it mean to evolve your product and evolve the industry? I think that is where the best PMs, that's a way to think about how your job changes in the age of AI. That's Ezinne's point of view. Oji.
I want to add something to that. One of the things that we put in the shipyard kit for product leaders, CPOs, directors, principals, is how do you evaluate and hire a good PM? And actually, this thing that product world has been inundated with frameworks and customer discovery, and all these frameworks is only a fifth of what we ask people to hire for. Like we ask people to look at what we call like the PM grab bag, and that's where the frameworks fit, which is like your customer tools, right? And within that is not even just customer tools. It's like, do you know how to run a meeting, right? It's astounding how many PMs don't know how to run a good meeting, how to get the best out of the collection of professionals who are close to you. Like, I'm sure if I Google today, I don't know how many hits I'll get. Well, that's in the grab bag, right? Triaging. When you get to the end of a project and you have to make choices on what to not include and what to include, how do you do that well? If that makes sense. So there's a grab bag of those tools, but there's also things that once I enumerate them will be clear that they're not easily replaceable. Leadership. How do you become someone that a team trusts and they will follow, right? Because actually that's key to dealing with everyone coding in the organization, because leadership is people who want to follow and who will listen to. And part of that is influence, right? How to do influence in an organization. There's also problem solving, something we call creativity, right? You have to be someone who either is very creative, who can look around corners, operate in white space successfully, or actually not or, and be someone who knows how to get innovative thinking out of your team, right? You have to be able to do both. Because sometimes it's not just about you. You're not, people think every PM is a visionary. It's not true. The best leaders in the world, the best visionaries in the world know how. Graham Bell. How many times you heard that Graham Bell basically exploited a bunch of people? He got stuff out of them, if that makes sense. And then there is communication. You have to be good at communicating, right? And that's really key. Can AI make you better at communicating? Yes. But do you have to have the instincts for a good communicator? Yes, you do. I think the last one is more practical, just a track record. You just have shown that you're able to create things, right? You can point to them. And if you listen to all these things that we think are key to the skill set of PMs, that whole like the noise, the place we've seen books and frameworks and stuff is only a fifth. And so I think that's what tells us that this skill set endures.
This has been a fantastic chat. I've really enjoyed this. I think we've got time for one more question. And like I said earlier, all three of us, we've been around the block a couple of times. We've seen a bunch of things. I'm curious, you just talked a lot about things people can do to concentrate on to improve. But I'm curious, in your careers, what's one mistake, one thing you've seen people do that, despite all the good things they do, that just makes you say, no, this isn't cutting it. It's hopefully something that's rectifiable, but something you've seen in people in your team that were otherwise really promising, and they're missing out and it's holding them back.
The one that I think that what I saw, and I ended up writing an article about this last year, was phoning it in. I think it was forgetting that the company was counting on you and had made investments on you as a product manager to direct their funds. As a product manager, you're responsible for directing the funds of the organization. You get to define and determine how many developers are working on something, and not really paying attention to that and just showing up and status quoing it, that pisses me off personally, right? Not having that strong sense of urgency, like, hey, there are many startups that would love 8 developers to solve a problem. And yet here you are with 8 developers and you're acting as though I haven't entrusted this to you. So that's the one that actually gets to me. And having people remember that it's a blessing to have a team and they get to direct what that team works on. And even though they feel they're getting requirements for the rest of the organization, they're there for a reason. You have a voice, speak up. So that one gets to me quite a bit. I don't know if that's a great answer, but that's the one I've seen a lot. There's a complacency and a lack of agency.
I love that answer. It's a friend of mine, Faith Forster, who was a guest on the podcast a while back. just did a presentation, and we need to get her back on one of these days, where she was questioning, does every product manager know the cost of their team and the value they provide? And if they don't, you're missing a massive trick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like to tell PMs that you're in charge of $1 million worth of resources. And it's like having a mini submarine, right? Basically, like I try to get them to understand that's bigger, that's more expensive than a Rolls Royce. And that's what we've entrusted to you. And so you have to get it right. I think what I would pick is just people who don't realize that the job isn't just to ship things, it is to lead teams. And it's just of your leadership function. You are product managing the product, but you're also product managing a bunch of people to make them more effective, to make them more cohesive. It's like being a player coach who wants to make a team a winning team. And so I think a lot of PMs don't devote as much time. And actually, this comes with maturity to engineering the balance of their team and the equilibrium of their team. And they just pay attention to this code ship. And I think that's a common mistake, a very common one.
Both great answers. And thank you again. I've really enjoyed the conversation today.
Thank you, Randy. We had a lot of fun.
The Product Experience hosts are me, Lily Smith, host by night and Chief Product Officer by day.
And me, Randy Silver, also host by night. And I spend my days working with product and leadership teams, helping their teams to do amazing work.
Luran Pratt is our producer, and Luke Smith is our editor.
And our theme music is from product community legend Arnie Kittler's band, POW. Thanks to them for letting us use their track.